Kate from Next Steps here today. I have Adrian with me also from Next Steps. And today we're going to be talking with Mike and Jess from Collective Flow. They've done a couple of videos for us to share with you, prompted by some unusual circumstances, but hopefully they'll be able to be with us a little bit more in this way as well. So we have some questions for them today. They're kind enough to take some time to talk with us. So we'll get right into it.
Where are you guys based at, and how did you guys get started with Collective Flow?
Yeah. So we're based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Jess and I really connected on Collective Flow from date one. The first time we had
actually
our first
before
date.
date one.
Yeah, we've met in a yoga studio,
Yeah.
and it just our passions were there. But we both have other full-time jobs. We believe one of the keys to a happy life is joining passion with payment. And this is just a skill set that we have. It's something we're passionate about. And we really started this to give back to really selfishly our loved ones. Like she said, we work with our moms and our family and friends, and we're expanding organically now. But that was it. These were tools that we felt like either mental longevity or physical longevity that we wanted to be able to share to the world. And in our style. And I think everything that we've said, yoga is your style. Collective Flow is our style, and there's sometimes you need different types of coaching and instructing. You need maybe the hard love sometimes you need the positive affirmations, and our side, we're on the positive reinforcement side. And that's just what we want. We started Collective Flow to allow us to be true to our style. And, that's why we're starting our path on becoming certified health coaches through the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. And we're starting that journey. So it's all because we're trying to bring this passion to the world.
Yeah, and our conversation of a business originally started as a physical location, as a yoga studio, which is still always a goal, but it's something that just naturally kind of transformed into going on site and doing yoga. Our first clients were working with a high school and doing yoga with their football and soccer teams. And it then turned into something really just organic in a way that we can go provide yoga to people in their own spaces. And what's been even cooler via Zoom, which seems kind of crazy that we can do, yoga virtually, is that we've gotten so much feedback that people just feel so comfortable. Like, they're like, if I don't want to turn my camera on, that's fine. Right. We like when you turn your camera on because we can see you. And if you, need adjustments, just like we would do in class, we could say that. But even just being in your own space, honestly having the temperature you want, making the environment, if you want to light candles or play music,
right.
It's just turned into this thing. We've always believed in showing people how accessible yoga is, which is why we're so grateful for the opportunity to work with you at Next Steps, because yoga is something that is accessible and beneficial and available to everyone. And the way that our company has kind of just manifested into, on-site and online yoga has been a really nice introduction to our style in people's spaces, because then when we finally have a space to invite them into ours, it's going to feel a lot more organic and kind of like it's their space too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We're just trying to build, that's why it's called Collective Flow. We're just trying to build this collective, this community of people that, it's more support systems. Life is up and down. So the more support systems you can have, people to reach out to, and if we can just be one slice, in your bread and your Big Mac, we'll take that. I don't know why I said that. That's terrible.
I've never had a Big Mac before.
Yeah, I'm not even. So anyways.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
Mike and Jess, can you guys give us a general description of what yoga is and kind of where it comes from?
Yes, definitely. So my favorite way to describe yoga and what it is by referring to the actual word of yoga, which really in its origin means like to join or a union. So when we think of like a physical practice of yoga, like the traditional yoga that we think of, it really is to join together not only the physical movement of the body, but also the power of the breath and the power of the mind with meditation. But what is super cool is that just in the yoga lifestyle in general, there's so much more to think about when it comes to joining powers and joining mindsets and different things that really create more of like an overall life union too.
Awesome. Yeah, I think especially now it's kind of a nice parallel to what I think most of the world is doing, is coming up with these ways to join together, maybe even in some unconventional ways too. So can you tell us a little bit more then about mindfulness? That's a term that kind of keeps coming up, and I think maybe people would like to hear more about what that is.
Absolutely. So my favorite definition of mindfulness was like, Google, what is mindfulness? Give me like a hard definition. And it's described as the practice of maintaining a non-judgmental state of heightened awareness of your own thoughts, emotions, experiences on a moment-to-moment basis. So I think what we've both really appreciated about that definition is having this like non-judgmental awareness, right? And especially when it comes to like us as a practice within Collective Flow, that's what we aim for, is just having this like simple awareness, non-judgmental of yourself in this present moment. Mike can speak to this too, but a lot of when I take Mike's classes, he always tells us at the beginning of class, like, throw out your to-do list, throw away, like, anything that's going to get in your way. And I know that's really what drew you to yoga too.
Yeah, exactly. I originally started just as a way to kind of stretch out and kind of round out the workouts. You put yourself through, certain challenges throughout the week, and this is a way to kind of unwind. But quickly, it was the mindfulness side that made this a lifelong practice. And what I realized is that my barrier to stepping into this world was perfection. And I think, not being able to do the moves perfectly every time right off the bat, and then quickly realizing that there never really is a perfection. Every time you try to open up in some way, you're going to sacrifice some other form. So to me, the mindfulness is what made me stick, of kind of stopping, calling a timeout in my day-to-day, and really just hone in. And how's my body feeling? Because I feel like so quickly we always give energy to other people, to to-do lists, to work, to family, but we never give that time to ourselves. And taking a moment to pause and just focus on your breath, the benefits of that is really what kind of kept me into this world.
Awesome. That's really cool. I think that really does show in your cueing too. I know your cueing is in such a way that you can kind of see what you should be doing, maybe through your mind's eye, and kind of envisioning things that way. And I think it is also really awesome that you guys emphasize, I guess, sort of the journey, right? It's not just the destination, it's what are we doing and how are we getting there? And that sometimes is so overlooked. So it's really nice to have some emphasis on that again too. So far we've kind of talked about like the mental, I guess, components of a yoga practice. But also I think there's, in the general population, there's this kind of thought that yoga is just exercise and moving your body. Can you tell us a little bit more about the difference between yoga in your mind and in your body? Do you have to move your body and that sort of thing?
Oh my gosh, great question.
Such a good question. Yeah. I feel like I have to like shove Mike over because I'm like, let me talk about this. It's my favorite part of yoga, which I didn't even realize when I started doing yoga, but then once I learned about the yoga lifestyle, I was like, yes, like this is exactly what it's done for my life. It makes so much sense. So yoga in itself is also like philosophy, like we talk about a yogic life. And there are 8 different limbs to that life. They're called sutras. And just one of them is the physical practice, which is called asanas. It's like literally physically doing yoga like we see it. Another one of the sutras is pranayama, which is breath. So things that we're pretty familiar with. Another one is meditation. But the two first yoga limbs that were deemed more important than any physical movement, breath work, or meditation itself are called yamas and niyamas. And yamas is number one, and it's said to be most important because it's the restraint that we practice like toward other beings. So I'll try not to go too deeply into this, but the first one is called ahimsa, and that's nonviolence. And it's nonviolence in so many ways, like literally physically nonviolence, right? Not hurting others, but also not using your words or even your thoughts to hurt others too. Other yamas are things like non-stealing or practicing things in moderation, right? Like indulging in moderation. So it was so interesting to me to learn that the first principle of a yoga life is to consider how you behave toward other people. And then the second sutra or limb is called niyamas, and those are how you practice life toward yourself, basically, like observances on how you conduct your own life. One of them being something called saucha, which is cleanliness or purity, which we think about a lot like in like a hygiene way, but it's also like the things that you eat, right? The way you fuel your body or the way that you think about yourself. Like Mike always talks about, you know, working your mental muscles and having this strong and healthy, clean mindset for yourself. And that's another way that we can practice yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I think a niyama that really applies to all of us in this community is something called tapas, which I think is my absolute favorite thing, because I personally found yoga in a time that was really, really challenging in my life. And tapas means heat and transition. And it's like how you basically endure the fire, right? Like you have to walk through the fire to get to the transformation on the other side.
Right.
And of course there's like hot yoga, so it can apply very literally too, like you got to survive the class to like feel okay. But it also is in like life's journey too. So it is, again, I'm going to stop myself there because I would literally talk for like 6 more hours about this, but those are some of the ways in which yoga is not just solely about like accomplishing physical poses.
Absolutely. And I think it's kind of going back to like the definition of mindfulness, that thing of non-judgmental, whether that's to anyone else but really to me, it's all about being non-judgmental internally and trying to figure out, and it's a skill. It has to be a conscious skill, figuring out which thoughts are good thoughts that are helping you and guiding you, and which thoughts are behind enemy lines that you're trusting and putting your faith into, but they're taking you down. They're putting that self-doubt. You don't deserve this. You can't do that. And that's, mindfulness is knowing that yoga, before even touching the mat or the chair or whatever, that's what the principle really is. And to me, I think everyone we all have our own story. We all have our own dark times we've gone through. And just to say it succinctly, for me, it's control. I feel like mentally I can grab control. I might not have control everywhere else in my life with what's going on in the world and physically, but I have mental control, and I'm going to hold on to that. And that to me is what yoga is kind of boiled down to.
So this is a very good example of the yoga lifestyle. Like Mike's description of that is a very good example of, Mike isn't so much familiar with like these yamas and niyamas. I'm the one that dove a lot deeper into that. But Mike practices yoga on a daily basis. And like I was saying before, I practiced yoga originally in a physical stance, but noticed like I wanted to eat cleaner and I wanted to be more positive. And one of the other niyamas is called svayaya, which is self-study, which I don't think you knew that.
No, I did not.
But it shows that like with one of the limbs of yoga, or two, right, breath and the asanas, the physical practice that you started practicing, it's like you like all of a sudden realize when you learn about these things that like overall your life changes because you've implemented maybe one or two of the limbs, and then all of a sudden you're like, am I a yoga person now?
Right. Yeah, what the heck? Yeah. Well, I think she's touching on a good point too, because I think every person is unique, and we should stop trying to fit into someone else's box. our DNAs differently, our bodies differently, the way we process foods differently, everything is differently. So the biggest, I guess, freeing thing for me was I can make this yoga practice specific to me like it should be. So if I can't do a pose and I can modify it so that I feel the most benefit, perfect. That's yoga. It's not what that person on TV or to the right or left of you, what they're doing. It's how do you feel in this moment right now? And are you pushing your boundaries just outside that comfort zone? Can you live in that uncomfort, which is where true growth happens.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds like, given that description then too, maybe a lot of people in times when they're struggling are actually practicing yoga without even knowing it.
Right.
So maybe that's a helpful way, like you're saying, to self-study, right? So if people are reflecting and noticing I'm trying to take control with my mental thoughts or changing my diet, whatever the case may be. Again, it sounds like a lot of people maybe are participating in that way. And maybe that's a nice realization, is I really am taking control in a way of, a practice that's been around for a very, very long time. And additionally, talking about potentially not having to do poses and being able to do yoga as a mental practice too.
Right.
It sounds like quite a variety of people can benefit from that also. Can you tell us more about who yoga might be good for?
Yeah, absolutely. I say everyone because that's the kind of person, the yoga person that I am. But that is, it's exactly what you said, is like you can practice yoga in so many different ways. And we also read another one of your like preparing questions of what would you say to someone who believes that they can't do yoga, and like something along the lines of what you just said is like you might already be practicing yoga. And we've really all of us have emphasized in this conversation already that it's not, yoga is called a practice for a reason, right? It's like Kate, you said about the journey. It's not about this destination. There's no wrong way to do yoga. You can't be bad at yoga.
Sure, right.
So it really is a practice for everyone, dependent on what it is that individual needs. We so often customize physical yoga for different needs. But it also is like, even the first video we did with you was like, okay, let's not do any like yoga, like movement yoga at all. Let's think about mindfulness and meditation. And that was still yoga.
Right.
So, I'm sure you can speak more to the physical side of it. And
yeah, well, I think it's I think if there's a theme of this, that there is no theme. Is that, it's and what I mean by that is like the theme is like all personal to you. So like and it's, the same person can have different needs each day. So some days I need that movement and I just need to, I feel stiff or whatever it is. And I'm looking for that physical benefit of it. Mm-hmm. But other days it's really just that mental kind of clarity, that focus. And I'll give you an example. You might be, next time you get stressed or you get overwhelmed or impatient, to me, that's the biggest one that I can usually flag right away. You feel that flare up of your blood going up. You got impatient. If you just pause and said, I am feeling the emotions of impatient. I am not impatient right now, but I'm feeling them. I know that sounds dumb. You're listening to it being like, what is this guy talking about? That's mindfulness. Because right there, you decided consciously, I'm going to separate myself from that emotion. I might be feeling it and it's okay. I'm not mad at myself for feeling impatient right now. It's understandable, but I'm not going to partake any further. And that's yoga. Like that's mindfulness right there. So I guess you can get either that mental side of it when you don't even know you're doing it, or you just need to move. You want to open up your range of motion. You want to strengthen your core. You can get the physical side. So yes, it's for everybody.
Yeah. And I think what's been super cool is that physically, like we've worked with and done yoga alongside so many different people. Mike and I are very different in our athleticism. He is a natural athlete and I most certainly am not. But even like currently we're both working with our moms who are 55 and 65. And while they don't have so much mobility, and actually both have rheumatoid arthritis too. The way that they listen to their bodies, they come out the other end not only feeling physically relaxed, but also mentally relaxed. Mm-hmm. And then Mike does yoga with an Army drill sergeant who is like the complete opposite person, both mentally and physically, of our mom.
Right.
And it's just, it really, you see such a wide range of people in honestly every class I've been in and every like individual that I've taught.
Yep. The theme is there is no theme. It's all a personal journey.
Yeah.
It's it's a tool for you to really lean to if you need to.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It sounds like really anyone can participate and, kind of design a framework for, their own needs, really. So that being said, I mean, you have this wide range of people that you can work with in this wide range of, techniques and, like you mentioned, just different limbs of yoga that you might be using. Can you tell us a little bit more about your decision-making process, particularly for Next Steps, that's more the neuro population or spinal cord injury population? Can you tell us about how you would kind of formulate maybe like a 60-minute class or even a short at home, I guess you would maybe say workout. I guess I would say workout. Maybe something else.
Definitely is. Yeah, good.
It's been really great, Kate, to be able to talk to you and to be able to speak with Jenny, because we're yoga people. We're not spinal cord injury people. So it's been really informative to be able to pick your brains and kind of understand the other part of the world that we want to mesh with yoga in our Next Steps kind of union here. So having the information and just seeing not only like your videos, your clients via social media, we then kind of take our expertise into play. Mine being yoga, Mike's being like anatomy, personal training, kind of more of that refined physical movement. And then the other thing, like on top of all of those like technicalities of like how can we create a perfect sequence, there also is no perfect sequence, because even if we're just making it for one individual, that individual is going to feel different every single day at different times of the day. For example, like if I do yoga at night, there are things that I do that I actually surprise myself because I'm like, I didn't know my body could move that way. But in the morning, I'm like, barely anything is happening. Stiff as a board, totally. So on top of kind of information gathering and using our expertise in combination with that, we also want to make sure to provide so many different variations and modifications, which is why you usually see Mike doing one thing and me doing something different if we're both in the video, or you see captions or me saying, do this or visualize, or option to, maybe like in tabletop yoga, option to use a towel to decrease resistance so you can slide better, or option when you're twisting to maybe just put your hands to the side of your leg rather than having to look all the way behind you. Because modifications are a normal part of yoga, and it's, again, just based on the individual. So giving the range of options, I think, is what is most important to us, and guiding people to listen to their bodies and know that it's a practice and it's something that should feel best in your own way.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that for me, the main thing as well is just to give feedback, from you guys, your clients. She already touched on it, but really it's the clients, that we're really trying to get to. The more that they can respond and give us feedback on, even down to specific joints and muscles that they want to work on. I mean, I think biggest thing here is just having true empathy and stepping into someone's world that, you take for granted so many things that you can move that others can't. So I think just really taking a pause and listening to the experts and then taking our passion and throwing it in there is what adaptive yoga is all about. But again, it all starts with the people that are doing it. This is why we're spending our time and energy. So the more feedback we can get from the people that are watching our videos, please send it. We love good feedback, but we really are looking for the negative so we can be better every day.
Excellent. Yeah, that's really cool. And for sure, I will continue to pass on any feedback too. But it's harmonious in that way, I guess, right? As instructors or Adrian, exercise specialists or therapists or any of us, we come out of the gate being told like, okay, you're certified or you're licensed or whatever the case may be, but we're always looking to refine that. And down the road, several years down the road, maybe you look back and you think like, oh man, this is what I thought before. But without that feedback from the people that you want to serve, there's no growth on our end either then, I guess, without that feedback. So yeah, I completely agree. It's important to get that, to really understand our own disciplines better that way too. So how often would you recommend to someone that they should be practicing yoga? If this is something that someone's saying like, well, I'm enjoying this, I want to make this part of my life and see if this fits for me, what would you recommend?
Well, I guess from my side of it, there's really no, you can't really overdo it, with strength training, cardio, you can definitely get overuse injuries. As long as you're listening to your body, you really can't overdo it. So you could theoretically be stretching 7 days a week, and you can definitely be taking time to go through the mindfulness practice and strengthening your mental muscles 7 days a week. But first thing I would say is team up with your physician and your team at Next Steps. I mean, those are the people you reach out to first and foremost to say, what do you recommend? Because I think kind of like you said, we can get the credentials and we can get trained for this, and this is our passion, but we as teachers and as instructors, we do our best work when we're able to modify from what we're able to see. As we say a pose and we look at the class and see what positions people can and can't get to, we're already modifying, didn't matter what we had written down, we're already moving along to make this perfect. So you guys know more than anyone else as far as the technical side, and you're seeing it with them. So I would say first and foremost, reach out to your physical team, and then from there, listen to your body. But you could go 7 days a week if this is your mode and you get the most benefit out of yoga. You got to find your passion.
Yeah, and I think Mike had mentioned earlier when we were chatting, like just by him saying maybe it's a day that you just practice the mindfulness techniques or do the mindfulness video, because something that he has to remind me of often is that your body does benefit from full and total rest too.
Right.
So maybe it is working the mental muscles some days and the physical muscles others.
Right. Just letting your body just truly sleep, recover more sometimes is really the best way to strengthen. So yeah. Thanks for bringing that up.
Very cool. It's given that it could be a mental practice, I would think that in that way, maybe, with respect to what you're comfortable doing, maybe more would be better for that. We talk often about dosage, what's going to be beneficial for people. Definitely.
I think especially as you're trying to talk about, how often you do it, I think for me, one of the things that made this actually start to stick, because it's all about, especially as a personal trainer, I'm just going after retention, daily positive habits and just it's consistency, right? I always make the joke, the mirror and the scale and everything else is the worst responding friend to a text ever. So let's not worry about them. So, but the whole point here is that when people think about yoga, you don't need to think about it in time blocks, an hour, 45, 30. This could be 30 seconds. I'm just going to focus on my breath and that's it. And you can break this up into chunks and sprinkle it throughout the day. So I just want to make that point of don't think about, I have to do yoga for this certain period of time, or I have to break a sweat for this to count. That's not it.
Yeah, that's exactly true. I mean, there have been, of course now virtual sessions that we've done that have literally only been like a 5-minute breathwork session.
Right.
And that's honestly something that I practice daily, when you're feeling stressed, discombobulated, all over the place. Right. The breath work itself is something that can be practiced every day. So totally. I think that's a great point.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then I have a couple questions here.
Mm-hmm.
So can you guys tell us more about how you came up with the ideas for tabletop yoga and the bed yoga?
Yeah, so actually tabletop yoga was Jenny's idea, which we really appreciated because I am very much a yoga prop user. And yoga props like could be anything from like there are yoga blocks, which literally personally just give me more length. So like if I can't touch the ground, I can lift the ground by putting a block underneath my hands. There are yoga straps, which again, like lengthen your arms. So maybe if you're stretching, maybe in your shoulders and, you know, you're holding a strap between your hands, it gives you more length rather than having to clasp your hands together. Or a bolster, which is essentially like a pillow that can go in so many different places to bring more like restore and relief. So it was really cool to think about tabletop yoga as Jenny was thinking about support, because I'm like, that's just a table, or Mike had emphasized earlier, or a chair is just another prop in yoga that we already love using.
Right.
And honestly, bed yoga is something that is like part of my life anyway. So as we were working with spinal cord injury, also pregnant, we had to think about a lot of different modifications. And I was like, well, I do bed yoga like when I wake up in the morning, so why can't we do a video of bed yoga? It is such a nice way to just get moving, you know, get the body feeling a little more mobile.
Blood flow going. Yep.
Right. In the morning, and a really great way to kind of slow down in the evening. And I think one thing that we learned when we were on a wellness retreat was something that has stuck with me now for over a year, is that this man told us, you know, when I wake up in the morning, I don't immediately stand up and start like doing a lot of movement, which is something that I'm very guilty of. Like wake up, pre-workout, coffee, do all the things. But he's like, I stay as close to the ground or like as low down as I can. And that's how I start moving. And then I progress to an upward position, which I was like, that is so much more natural of a way to wake up, and
Right.
a much more a much smoother transition into your day, or even out of your day, right, going into bed, than the traditional ways that we wake up in a rush, ready to go, or the traditional ways that we go to sleep, just getting off of our computer, just getting off of our phone, and then trying to get a good night's sleep.
Right.
So, yeah.
Said it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the bed yoga is going to be a great one for our patients to watch and listen to. This is something that will be great for them to get some movement where they might not get a lot of movement otherwise.
Perfect.
Love that.
And then the next question I had, so is yoga enough to keep you fit? I know people are like, you know, versus like a HIIT exercise or weight training, kind of in that realm.
Sure. I mean, I hate to not give a straight answer, but it definitely ranges. I mean, you've got the different styles of yoga and different poses that you're holding. So it definitely depends on the sequence, but in general, I mean, it definitely is a way to burn calories. It's not going to be a tremendous amount. It's hard to give you a range. I would say, if I had to, 100 to 200, I would say, just roughly in an hour, 60-minute session. But that completely depends on how much you're moving. Really, though, it's the blood flow that you're getting of going through your body, the heart rate, the capacity of your lungs that you're increasing. There's a ton of different benefits outside of the traditional, I lifted heavy weights a whole bunch of times and I'm sweating and I'm sore. Like, and I'm not saying that's bad. That's also the world I live in as well. But it's just a different way to look at it. So I hope that helped answer.
Yeah, no, and I think that the way that Mike uses yoga in a fitness setting is to supplement his traditional workout styles with yoga. 1 or 2 days a week you're doing yoga. So yes, you're still working out, you're still getting movement, you're still getting your heart rate up, even if you're not moving a lot, just utilizing the breath work. It makes a really good pair to then all of the things that I'm sure, especially when we're talking about next steps, that you're working with your clients on to add yoga into it.
Right.
So I'll be honest in saying that yoga for a long portion of my life was the only thing that I did.
Which is perfect.
Which was perfect.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, so it certainly can be the only form of movement, but is also a really nice pair to the other kind of forms of fitness that we utilize in all settings.
Well, and I also think it's from an occupational therapy standpoint, that, I mean, yoga is all about mindfulness. So when you're trying to push yourself up, keeping your elbows in and, spreading your fingers wide to give you a nice base, and your core is tight, so you're moving, raising yourself up. Those are all things that you can incorporate in your day-to-day life as you're moving from, a chair setting to a bed, or down from the floor and trying just to get up. You can push up and use strength if you want, but maybe let's be intentional about this. This is the things that we're learning from yoga. Keep those elbows in, let them scrape along your body. Those are the ways that we might be able to help impact your day-to-day life as well, by incorporating yoga. And again, just being mindful of how you move.
I think I didn't realize I was going to have so much to say about this question, but I think that is so spot on. The thing that yoga, like I said, for the longest time, the only thing I practiced was yoga. I am certainly not like a cardio person, and have more so become, working with weights, but I've 100% found that the core work and the breath work involved with yoga, as well as the body awareness that you start to learn, has made me stronger in all other aspects of, my fitness routines.
Totally.
So like Mike is saying, using the intentional movement and alignment has made weightlifting or other forms of movement or therapy work a lot better. Even being in, doctor's offices for different pains, they've told me do different things or think about this. And it just brings you into a different space of awareness, I think, because of the mindfulness aspect of it.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think yoga is a great supplement to any other workout that you're doing. And like you said, it's all about the mindfulness, because during this time I've been practicing yoga a little bit, like here and there, not every day. Just, trying to get that mindfulness in, because everything has changed significantly around me. And it's like, how do I get back to normal, basically,
Totally. It's just another arrow in your quiver. And that's all we're trying to do, is just give you the resource to reach out to it before, you have to go down a different path. It's just one more thing for you to reach to when you need it.
Yeah. I love that you guys can bring your passion and help others, especially us. And thank you guys so much, and for showing us that, that yoga does not need to be physical. It can be mental as well. And, all the benefits that come with it, with the mindfulness, and just like you said earlier, practicing yoga can be for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a set time. And I like that it doesn't have to be, there's no right way to do yoga. Like when I'm doing yoga, because I don't really practice yoga, but I've been doing it now, and I'm like doing a downward dog. I'm like, am I doing this right? But then I'm like, okay, like it doesn't have to look like what you're doing,
Exactly. I get all the time. I get the I don't look like that, and my response is, you look perfect.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to look like that, because you're not me. You're you. So but really interesting.
Point.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you guys for answering my questions. Kate, do you have any more questions?
No, I think that just about covers it. You guys obviously care so much about what you're doing and how you're doing it, and are very mindful. Again, in your instruction too, it's wonderful to hear, just even in your responses, the enthusiasm and how charismatic you really are with the whole package. It's something that you live it, you really do. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And if anybody out there has questions or comments, you can reach out to us at Next Steps, or definitely please look into the comments or description for this interview also to find more information about Mike and Jess from Collective Flow.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much again. It's such an honor to be teamed up with you guys. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll be doing more videos soon.
Yeah,
exactly. Be on the lookout. We'll be doing some more.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.